What's up, everybody? Welcome to another wonderful episode of the Surf and Sales podcast. I am Scott Leese, co-founder of the Surf and Sales Summit and the Surf and Sales podcast, along with my good friend and co-founder, Richard Harris. What's going on, Richard?
Just hanging out, man. Like we just did an hour session live, which was kind of fun. And then now we're doing this one. So I get to see a lot of Scott Leese this week, which is always
we're warmed up right now.
We are fired up, I think. So
warmed up. We are fired up. And we've got a really cool guest today. His name is Manuel Hartman. He's the founder and CEO of Sales Playbook. He's also the co-host of ARRtist and co-founder and co-host of Europe's B2B Tech Sales podcast. This guy is involved in all sorts of different communities, and he's based in Zurich right now, I think. But my question for both of you, welcome to the show, Manuel. Why do I have to deal with these two freaking note taker bots in this meeting right now? I got one guy using Fathom, free promotion, another guy using TLDV. I never even heard of that one. Why are these note takers invading my private sanctity of this Zoom chat? What do I got?
The polite version of how I explain it to people is like, so I can fully focus on you and the conversation and don't spend my focus time and energy and mental load in Hubspot and taking notes. The other part, which many people think like, oh, I just introduce more sales tech and it will find product market fit for me. And everything else will fix itself if you just introduce more AI and conversational intelligence to the world, which at first I believe in, second, not so much.
Yeah, I will tell you why, because I just have it automatically connected to any meeting I have and it joins. And
I find it so annoying. I find it annoying.
Why, old man? It's first time, like I'm technically older than you. Why is this annoying to you?
I don't know. Work on your memory, work on your note-taking skills.
I take great notes. But
yeah, so what do you need a note-taker app for then?
Because it'll capture the stuff I might miss.
Okay. All right, Manuel. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're up to and what Sales Playbook is all about and ARRtist and all this good stuff.
Yeah, happy to. Thanks so much for having me on the show. My good friend Chris Cargill from our team became really jealous because he's a much better surfer than I am and more accomplished VP sales. Like, I want to be on a podcast. Why are you going? Jokes aside, Sales Playbook founded the company a bit more than 5 years ago to help B2B entrepreneurs build and scale sales quickly and efficiently and with as little trial and error as possible. Just because I see tons of people, especially from 0 to 10 million ARR, that have been working in a corporate or a different company. It's really different to build something from 0 to 1 to 5 to 10 to maybe 20, 50 million ARR than it is to work for a large corporate, which I was doing, implementing Salesforce at Accenture for world-renowned companies like the World Economic Forum, like ABB and so on. Worked at Tesla selling roadsters back in 2012 when it was not sure if electric mobility is a thing. Built up sales for an AI startup in Zurich before, and just notice with the AI startup, it's really different if you get a brand name like Accenture or ABB or like whatever big name holds him behind you, or if you go to a conference and somebody's like, oh, Wondot, never heard of that company. Well, we did a full-on rebranding and the company name exists since like 2 hours. So no SDRs back in times, no brand, no partnerships, no anything, no product basically. And that's besides my drive to just like found my own company, help B2B entrepreneurs be successful, led to Sales Playbook. But now the last 5.5 years, we helped approximately like 325, 330 B2B entrepreneurs with hands-on pipeline generation, either sparring or do a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff for them, one-on-one sales coaching, training enablement, and also HubSpot services on like helping them get a proper CRM done.
All right, I got a question for you.
He's got his hands in everything.
He does, like, holy shit. All right, did you say you did stuff with the World Economic Forum?
Yeah, I've been there for a year. It was really, really a lot of fun.
Did you go? Did you get to go to the forum?
I did not go. Like, I was busy deploying the quote to cash process during that time, actually.
So here's an interesting question, because, and again, I think you said you worked with Accenture, right, and had clients, right?
Right.
How much better, aside from maybe the human capacity and resources, does someone get a service like Sales Playbook or what Scott and I offer, how much better is it really coming from someone like Accenture versus the entrepreneurs of us who actually live and breathe it every day?
I think it's terrible because there's so much brand equity. And I mean, I've been involved like selling like $1 million US proof of concept for an add-on to Salesforce. And I mean, the company, the Accenture client was basically already with us, and they had no other option, quite frankly. So it was just still 6 months of 80 assumptions in the Google Sheet, of which we knew like 5 are just entirely untrue. The US entity had a different instance, and we had ended up, I think, 12 instances and whatever. It's very political, like, and then did a pilot for $1 million. No like sales thing, no outbound, no new business, no negotiation really involved, because it was inevitable. Versus when you build up something from win the first 10 logos, like hire your first VP sales, it's really, really different. And people told me actually like, oh, how do you know that sales stuff that you know, like from Accenture, like from like University of St. Gallen, from Tesla? No, probably most from Tesla, just applied. Yeah. But there was no playbook. There was no winning by design back then.
Accenture didn't teach you how to sell? I'm shocked. No. So, by the way, to Accenture, we do value you. We know that you are helpful to the world out there. We just like to pick on you because you're really big and you make more money than us. So
maybe somebody from Accenture will hear this on the sales side and ask to come on the podcast.
That's what I was thinking. Yes,
on how Accenture sells. Are you finding? I would imagine the answer is yes, but are you finding dramatic differences between people that you talk to and work with on this subject, Manuel, based on where they operate, where they live and operate? Differences between Germany versus Switzerland versus New York City versus wherever?
The difference between Germany and Switzerland, not so much. The Germans are hard in negotiation, and just like they might end the call like, Scott, like, let's talk discounts. It's like, I was like, what about them? It's like, how about 20%? Leave the air out of the tires. Like, why, right? The Swiss person would just tell you like, hey, can we make sure like this is on site, and can you do a reference call, and can I really trust you? And then that's fine. So that's a bit of cultural difference. In terms of go-to-market and B2B sales maturity, I'd say, especially like the coast, East Coast and West Coast in the US are probably 2 to 3 years ahead in general, just because the market is so much more competitive. So
what about the sort of, how do I phrase this? I was talking to somebody the other day from New Zealand, actually, and they were saying essentially like New Zealanders have this like limiting belief where they don't have as much confidence, or it's not celebrated as much to like go all in compared to people in New York City and stuff like that. So I'm trying to think about how to phrase this in the context of like go to market and going 0 to 10.
It's just like the way of seeing the world and communicating. Like people, it's like a bit the American pie. Like if a guy says like I had X times, like you discount by 3 because it like multiply. Like if a US person tells you like it's 10x, like okay, there might be a 3x, all right, like fine, like or there might be like a 1.5. If a Swiss person tells you like there's a 2.3x ROI on this, like it's probably between 2.2 and 2.4, especially if it's like a tech founder.
Very accurate.
So when, let me give you a specific example. When we've been in a machine learning startup, when we did automated product data onboarding for e-commerce, right? And we've had this very honest opinion that it takes somebody to onboard a new supplier, it takes them a day, and we could do it in half an hour. So it was 16x faster. Our board member came in and was like, guys, what did you smoke today morning? You claim to be like 16x more efficient. I was like, yeah, we truly believe so. Like, even if you do, like you go to a very established retailer, I think like Walmart of Switzerland, like just a portion size smaller, but 30 billion revenue, they will not believe you. I mean, just write like 3.4x, and that's perfectly well. Like if they spend like 10 million and then they spend 3, that's 7 million savings. That's completely fine. You're not in the US here. You don't need to be number 1, 10x, AI, whatever. And on the maturity side, sometimes like you show people and it's like, hey, LinkedIn connection requests, you can automate that. That's sequencing tools for that. Like, really? I don't need to buy email credits. I don't need to have paid ads. Like, is that GDPR compliant? Yes, you can click the big blue button and then you can send a video from your mobile device. And then you can actually track that and sync it to your CRM. And people are like, oh, that's amazing. Versus in North America, people are a bit more amazed, like, oh, you're from Switzerland, that's amazing. Like, why? So
just the fact that you're from there is amazing.
Right.
Yeah. So
I got all
level
excited
of amazement is a
in
lot
Davos.
higher in North America.
Yeah. I was all excited that, oh my God, he must go to Davos all the time. Right. So he gets to hang out there all the time. So, what are, what are the differences you see as you work with different organizations in, let's even call it 0 to 1 million and then 1 million to 2, so 1 million to 10, right? Like where does someone need to start in terms of this playbook? And by the way, the context of me asking this question is that in my head, when I think about the 0 to 1 million founder and it's founder-led sales, I'm thinking that person's often a technical founder. Not always, but
Very
generally
often.
they are, right? And technical people love process and they love to document process to a certain degree on the technical side of things. And sometimes I see them over-engineer on the sales side in their
100%.
initial go-to. So tell me, what is the difference between that 0 to 1 million and then the 1 to 10 million that people could walk out of here going, oh, I should stop doing this and start doing that?
I think 0 to 1 is optimized for learning velocity. I don't care if you do 800K or 1.2 million, but like how fast you learn towards message market fit, product market fit. And if it's like, I love tech founders in terms of like, let's set up the equation, right? Let's set up like the problem solution fit. Let's set up the ICP as in persona and the company. Let's set up product channel fit. Like, is your product suitable for product-led, marketing-led, marketing-enabled, sales-led, enterprise, partner sales, whatever, go-to-market motion, and is LinkedIn, email, flying penguins, letters, whatever the best channel that your people trust. And then let's solve this equation first before we throw people, like salespeople, at the problem. So it's like building a plane from 0 to 1. You don't hire a pilot to build the plane, you hire them to fly the plane. And with 1 to 10 is largely this transition from founder sales to founder-led sales to founder-enabled, not so founder sales, like effectiveness. Can you make it repeatable? Can you make it predictable? Can you make it work, right? And then upon like 3, 5, 10, depends a bit on your average contract value. It's really about efficiency. Like, can you go from 3 to 6 to 10 without adding tons of people linearly by having positive net revenue retention, by having higher sales velocity conversion and deal size, by having basically more lookalike profiles, bring down customer acquisition cost.
All right, so stop right there because I want to repeat what you said for people. So I love the first thing. 0 to 1 million is about optimizing for learning, right?
Yeah.
From 1 to maybe 2 million, and so that's one thing. The other thing you said, which I found interesting, was there's a difference between founder sales early on to founder-led sales to scaling the team, which you started to break down at 3 to million, 6 million, up to 10 million. So what's the difference? And maybe they're the same thing, it's just how you said it. What's the difference between founder sales and founder-led sales?
Founder sales is if the founder does everything, right? And I know founders that get to 1, 2 million ARR, and like I know a founder that's like, hey, I hired 7 salespeople now. It's like, oh, that's good. Like, you did 1 million ARR yourself, and now you have 7 sales reps, so you do 8. I was like, not quite. We do like 1.5 because we do enterprise sales. Sales cycles are 18 months. And how do I know, like, if salespeople are any good, if I cannot reasonably expect them to go from 0 to close 1? It's a terrible learning velocity. 1.5 years is terrible learning velocity. So going enterprise from the beginning, I talked to like a founder and they've been at 100 million ARR. I was like, well, that's great. Like, we have tons of product market fit. Like, no, we closed like 12, 8 million deals, and half of them were from our network and half were inbound. We don't know. So it really depends on how you're able to solve the equation repeatedly.
Got it.
You about to ask something else? Go ahead.
No, so then I was going to ask one more thing. So I love that founder sales, founder-led sales. We talked, maybe the scale was too big, 1 to 10 million. When you get to, so 1 million, you're getting there. Now, I assume what you're saying is that, once you hit about 1 million, then you do founder-led sales where you might bring in a rep or 2, but you're still leading sales.
There will always be these transformational deals, right? I mean, we just closed a Hubspot deal with a significantly larger company than our typical client, which was also 3x bigger than what we did before on average. So obviously I was still in the deal because we needed to structure it different regarding rollout, regarding marketing hub as a sales hub and so on than the typical deal. So obviously I'm still in the deal. That's basically still founder-led sales, right? I'm still there, but my HubSpot practice lead is leading the technical part, and we're going to do it once, we're going to blueprint it. And the next time it will be like founder enabled. I might still join the conversation as a closing asset, but I'm less required. But then the next thing will happen, like that again, 3x bigger CRM deal. So, and then I need to go in again.
So what changes at on the path to 10 million? What changes in the sales motion when you get to 3? What changes in the sales motion when you get to 6? Or is it, well, there's not much that changes other than maybe personnel and when you bring in a leader, you know, I'm just trying to sort of break it down for people into smaller bite sizes.
Yeah,
and then
100%.
Scott can ask some questions. I give him permission.
No, 100%. Again, I think it depends on your ACV, on your average annual contract value. So if you, for 3 million, if you close 10 300K deals, you might not have product market fit. If you close basically 130K deals, that's a lot closer to repeatability usually. What typically changes that 3 is that you figure out your go-to-market motion. If it's like outbound, inbound led, if you need SDR AE versus full stack, you have found your niche where you have like 10 clients in a niche and you find another 10. You have a reasonable understanding of your metrics and how they evolve over time. And it's just like, can you do more of the same? You think so. But then you hit the saturation up on 10 million. Like it doesn't get you automatically to 50 because you might have covered all the early adopters. You might already do so at 3, at 5, at 10, depends on your market. So when I was, for example, selling Tesla Roadsters like 12 years ago in 2012, we're like, hey, that's really cool. We sold the Roadsters like scrappy cars sort of to engineers, designers, architects, surgeons. So people with an eye for like the really exclusive stuff. And then suddenly people came and was like, hey, my navigation system had a delay in loading times. I was like, nobody ever cared for the first 2,500 cars. But then suddenly like you sold as a company to people who are used to a BMW M5 with like amazing German engineering quality, having completely different needs, right? And that happens typically can be at 3, 5, 10 that you need to go into a new buyer group with like what you call like not the early adopters anymore, just like normal people, and they ask really different questions.
Regular adopters.
Regular adopters, like that, they have different questions on service level agreement and how it integrates with their landscape, and like they have already a competitive solution, and like what if your startup dies at one point still?
Yeah. Let me completely change topics on us for a second. As somebody who runs a business the way you do, when did you recognize, oh shit, I need to start growing my network, start building my brand, start creating content and using these things as a way to gather demand, almost like a demand gen function to get business going for yourself? How long have you been working on that and known like this is part of my strategy and what I need to do?
I think I've been working on this since day one, less structure, like also going to events, like doing basically like appearing on podcasts and so on for like 2019 to 2021. And then during the pandemic, it became a lot more relevant, right? So like fun coincidence, I decided to put up a knowledge hub with like 60 worksheets and like regular group coaching sessions and so on up in like January, February 2020. So before the pandemic hit, and it served me well, right? Like revenue grew like 3-4x 2019 to 2020 because it allowed me like no physical workshop to just like serve like 20 clients in like a weekly one-on-one session supported by knowledge assets and so on. And like 20 clients, basically like 1.5-2K MRR per client myself, pretty much, just stressful, but doable. And then I realized like, okay, I cannot do like classic SDR work because like that's not my full-time job. So what's the highest asymmetric like upside on demand and pipeline generation that's also creating trust to close bigger deals faster, and going from basically whatever 5,000 to close to 30,000 LinkedIn followers. I don't care about the number, but I care a lot more about the high 6-figure booked revenue it brings in terms of demand gen, pipeline gen, and a closing asset. Yeah, where people come to us and our sales velocity for like a 15 to 50K deal is typically like 2 to 4 weeks. It's like, I've been following your content, I agree with it, I read the ebook.
And if that channel dried up for you,
yeah,
where would you go next? What would you do next?
we go to what we already do. So we get roughly a third from LinkedIn, be it content, be it virtual events. We get roughly a third from referrals, be it from VCs or clients, or even people that don't work with us. That we try to win 3 times and then they send 2 referrals.
They send somebody else, yeah.
They send somebody else. Like, why don't you do it? Like, but it's still fine, right? And then the other part is just like playing our own playbook, right? We have a reasonable understanding of outbound LinkedIn, cold calling, outbound email, lead magnets, value fields, like running our own events in a while.
And how do you feel about the strategy and the channel in general of outbound cold calling, outbound emailing, outbound LinkedIn? Are you you said before we went on air, I think, like, you don't think these things are dead. I'm just curious where you think we're headed in the next few years. What's gonna work best?
I think there's not the one channel that works best. That's like, if you would ask, like, what's the best sport? Is it CrossFit versus football?
The
versus
answer is
MMA,
obviously
whatever.
soccer and football. That's obvious.
I have a Liverpool Premier question.
I thought you say surfing. Like, I like go box sparring tomorrow again. So yeah. Again, like, but that's saying something about the topic, right? Like, people ask, literally reach out and like, is outbound email the best channel? It's like, don't know. Like, do you people read emails? Like, if you sell to public service, we had a client and they said, like, let's sell to corporate real estate. We are moving platform, right? And that's validated. And all these people were on LinkedIn, and suddenly we found out, like, they don't care about customer experience. So we pivoted within, like, the pipeline generation, sparring and execution to, like, public services. And public service people are not on LinkedIn. They average like 50 to 65 years old, but they have a legal obligation to open physical letters. So the opening rate on physical letters as a channel is very close to 100%. So it is up to you to create relevance in that. But how about a channel that has a 90 to 100% opening rate versus email, which has a much lower opening rate, versus LinkedIn, where they are just not present? And that's just very specific to who you sell to. Where are we heading on that? I had a basically conversation with, like, the founder of G Carbon on Hyperbound, right? We had a, like, intense conversation about, will email die as a channel because it's just so crowded? And I was like, email is too important as a business communication channel to die completely. But it might be a blue checkbox, like, this email was created and sent by a human versus a sales engagement platform. So every channel that works is going to get more crowded, and it's always up to us as go-to-market salespeople to have a channel that's less crowded, right? So I still see, like, connection requests on LinkedIn, like, people who visit your profile, 80% acceptance. Send them a personal video from your mobile phone with an easy call to action, like, hey.
Oh man, that's
still like a 60% reply rate.
Yeah, I think that's killer advice. But for anybody who gets connection requests at the volume that I do, that is absolutely impossible. I have thousands. You're famous, right? But what am I supposed to do? Because I can't take action the way that you're giving advice on. I like your advice. I get all these profile views. I get these connection requests. I should 100% send some sort of personalized mobile video to everybody, but I have thousands.
So Scott, I'm going to Scott.
What am I supposed to do?
I'm going to Scott Leese you.
So do I pay somebody to do it?
No.
That feels insincere to me. It feels inauthentic. Yeah. Also, I'm cheap and I don't want to spend any money to do that. So what do I do?
So Scott, I'm going to Scott Leese you, which is right. But you'll be like, yeah, that's actually not unreasonable. Because I know you look at those connection requests, and right? Daily?
Yeah, I do.
Daily?
More than one time a day. Yeah.
Okay. So in that 1 out of 20 that you quickly scan, once a day, could you accept one and send a video? Not try to do all of them, but do it based on, oh my gosh, this person is a VP of sales, they're a founder, they're this, right? So that you don't because I know you will.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, the answer is yes, I could do that, but there's additional steps there, right? Like I have to go disconnect from somebody first.
Why don't you don't like once a month just go disconnect from 30 people one time? So then over
Richard,
the month,
I disconnect from 30 people more than once a month, and it gets refilled faster than you can blink an eye.
Then you need to be more diligent about who you fill it with. And if you are refilling it, then those are the people you should be sending the video to.
So one thing on that, I think, like, Scott, you hit like what every executive hits, right? Every CEO of a Fortune 500 company has no problem of finding people who want to talk to that person. Zero. Like, not everybody has 112,000 LinkedIn followers in a pretty specific niche, right? Like, it's not like famous for whatever remote work, but it's actually useful. It's not your problem that people want to connect to you. But like, if I would have an SDR and selling sales tech, I was like, hey, score a meeting with Scott Leese getting on his podcast is much higher value than the head of sales of a 10-person company. So I would definitely give that SDR permission to send you a physical surfboard to your home with a QR code on top of it. I was like, give me 15 minutes of your time and then hang up or continue. And it would be worth that like $2,000 investment, right? Including shipping costs, because it would have a disproportionate effect of basically creating leverage.
So
what
Scott,
I heard, hold on. What I heard was I should just put a filter up that charges people $2,000 for 15 minutes of my time. That sounds amazing. I don't think that anybody would pay it, but it sounds amazing.
But what you should do, Scott, is for those who are listening, if you email me or text me, I will give you Scott's address. But Scott, what kind of surfboard do you want? Because we will make them buy you the right surfboard. Because if someone sends you a Costco surfboard, now you might give that to your kids. You're like, all right, that's cool. Braden or Caleb could use that one.
Yeah. Do I get now commission for all the surfboards?
Yes, 100%. Not only will you get commission, Manuel, I will pay for your ticket to go surf with me wherever we go on this adventure. Yeah.
Yes. So there you go.
Appreciate it so much. So I mean, the point is, like, it leads to a deep issue in go-to-market, right? Like, people say, like, we need more leads, we need more reps, we need more meetings. Like, that's customer acquisition costs. And if you play soccer, and like I'm an SDR, I play soccer, I'm 25. I'm like Scott Leese, as my VP says, tells me, like, get meetings. Like, I play soccer with like a team of 11. So I'm going to have 10 meetings booked. And I'm going to have my quota like in the evening match. How much weight the pipeline is that? Zero. So the incentives are wrong, right? Like, so when do we incentivize go-to-market teams for weight the pipeline? That includes marketing, by the way, at an early stage before 10 million. You don't need huge rebranding and gradient collars. Like, marketing should be revenue marketing, paying into weighted pipeline. And I don't care how many ebook downloads and MQLs you get. I care how much do you contribute to booked revenue with ICP customers, clients.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great piece of advice. I'm poking fun out of it only a little bit, just because I can't execute on it, and I wish that I could. It's definitely a hack and doable. You don't have to do all 1,000 of them every single day, Scott. You can pick and choose the couple. But for anybody who has a smaller network that is only getting, I don't know, a dozen connection requests a week, I would 100% do what Manuel is talking about.
I would agree.
And this goes back to the target group. And this goes back to the target group, right? So like my podcasting friend, Europe's B2B SaaS sales podcast, Patrick Trimpe, he actually sold to lawyers and compliance people, and he had up to 70% cold email reply rates, not opening reply, right? So these people get very few emails. They've been in internal general counsel and so on. He changed company. Suddenly he sold to VP sales. Like, all that stuff is like, oh, funny, I know that template. Thanks for boilerplating me, but not gonna buy. Cold calling was a lot more fun. Like, cold calling VP says, like, hey, do you give me 30 seconds or hang up? Oh, that's a good one. I enjoy this conversation. What do you sell? Like, sales tech. Good. Let's have a conversation. Now he sells to educational institution, which is again different. So it works a lot more based on trust, based on conferences, based on different mechanisms again. But I mean, the part is just supply and demand. And like in your case, Scott, like it's this executive thing, right? It's like if I asked a girlfriend, right, of mine, was like, hey, are you in the dating market? Did you ever do outbound? I was like, no, thank you, but no, thank you. No outbound. Why should I? Like, Scott Leese, why should you set a connection request? Like, you don't need to.
Scott doesn't do outbound in the dating market either.
No, I don't do outbound. Yeah, never done outbound in dating. I've never done outbound in my consulting business. He's right.
So,
Yep.
so I got a really important question for you, and then we're going to flip it to you and let you ask us a question or two if you like. But Premier League, who's your team, and what do you think of Liverpool?
I'm a big UFC fan. I go boxing once or twice a week. Liverpool's a fine club, better than Chelsea. It likes throwing money at the problem.
Scott, how do you feel about that answer?
I like it's a politically wise answer given the context of
which is bullshit because we don't like politics.
I just do not have very strong opinions on
he doesn't care.
From age 7 to 14, so I'm not.
He doesn't care. You're also asking him about the wrong league potentially. Right. If you ask him who's his team in the Bundesliga, then maybe there's a little more reaction. But he's also more of a surfer than anything.
Right.
Just fun stat maybe that I found on I think it was podcast on Diary of a CEO. Like every club that Ronaldo joined after Real Madrid, performance went down, right? So much on getting that individual rock star president's club person that's gonna like get everybody to the next level. I think that's another big one. When
it's a difference between buying talent versus developing talent from within.
And a team versus an individual contributor. Right. So flipping the script there, like what's your take after like a few decades in this field of like, what do you do if you have a rock star account executive that closes roughly 2 to 3 times as much revenue as everybody else on the team, but like an AH, and they're just destroying culture. They're selling things the company doesn't do. Like they don't care about customer success, engineering.
Well, I know I know what I do because I've done it multiple times actually. I fired
FIRE.
Yeah, I let him go. Twice in my career. I had top performing reps like you're talking about.
Yep, they're so toxic.
By far outperformed people, but they were very toxic. They were jerks. Nobody liked working for them. They created challenges and problems everywhere. They didn't follow the right process. XYZ. And the first
what's your hot take?
I had to get rid of them. I got rid of them.
What's your hot take if they're not jerks, right? The team actually likes them. They're funny, right? I mean, they're people, I guess, in salespeople, but they don't follow the process. They never fill out the CRM except of closed one and the commission required fields. They sell things which are stretching what the company does, right? They're not in the price book. Deal is 3 times bigger, give discounts.
He's going to get them a note taker like Fathom or something to do that for them.
But what do you do?
There are tools
that are not assholes, but that do not follow the process.
I mean, the short answer is I passed them over to Richard because
he did.
Because when I built teams, I wanted to build them in a particular way, and I wanted to surround myself with a particular type of person. The person you're describing is not a good fit to be on my team. So what I would do when I was a sales manager and when there was other sales managers, I would trade just like you do in sports. And I would go to Richard or Manuel and be like, hey, do you want to take Sally off my hands? She's the #1 rep in the company, but she does things her own way. And inevitably, the other managers would see dollar signs and be like, yes, absolutely. Right?
I see the
and
same
I'd be
thing
like,
happening.
Oh, good. I'll take the new hire, or I'll take so-and-so from your team who's okay, but kind of underperforming. I think I can turn them into a star. And I would build my team the way I wanted it built. I had no room for kind of divas or the Ronaldo kind of personality. I just didn't want to deal with that.
So if somebody from Bravado or RepView is listening, like go build that marketplace, like to not only put out comms models, but also like tradability. I see the same, by the way, in like office first or remote first. Somebody might be a great in-office rep and they thrive in a culture with the gong in the office and so on, and they go in the remote first setup and just doesn't work out for them on the sales operations pretty much. And vice versa, like if you put people in the office and it doesn't fit their rituals.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It doesn't mean that they're no good. It doesn't necessarily even mean that they're not a fit for the company, but they're not a fit for me and the way I want things done. And when I moved into VP sales roles, I was like, out. Don't want it. Don't want to deal with that kind of person. And it sends a message to everybody else, right? And I think that's important. It's important.
Yep.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, Scott, did we ever, when we were at Leapfish, we never did a draft, did we? Here's the team of people, but we should have.
Yeah, we should have. I don't know that we ever. I don't know that we ever did that. We might have done that with like a new recruiting class or something like that.
That's true. Maybe. We might have done it there. Yeah. So Manuel, you've already asked us some questions, just sort of as they came up, naturally. Is there anything in particular you do want to ask us? We need to sort of move to wrapping this up, but we always want to let you take a minute to ask us questions.
Yeah. One, I know that you're like a 2021 to 24 top sales influencers to follow for Salesforce, right, on Richard's side. And I've been like a big Salesforce fan since I met it first 2012 at Tesla, and I was like, this is amazing. I can walk to a car and like I type the vehicle identification on and it tells me everything about the car. And people asked me back in 2012, like, what's the one thing that can kill Salesforce for smaller businesses, like anybody below 100 million, right? I was like, if they become SAP, if they just buy a lot of software and then plug it together like Frankenstein's monster, like SAP style, and that's exactly what they did with Marketing Cloud, Analytics Cloud, whatever cloud, how they call it, Commerce Cloud. It's all very separate things. While HubSpot maintained integrity of architecture and usability, and while I was endorsing Salesforce like a while ago for B2B entrepreneurs with 0 to 10, maybe 50, 100 million nowadays, I stopped and we became a HubSpot Platinum Solutions partner because it's just more suitable for businesses below 100 million. What's your take on that?
What is my take on why Salesforce?
HubSpot versus Salesforce. When do you recommend to a company like, hey, Salesforce still 40 years to come? And when do you say like, hey, HubSpot is actually better, honestly?
So it's a really good question. I'm not sure that I know the right answer because I was brought up in the Salesforce ecosystem, right?
Me too. I earn my money with Salesforce.
And so I don't play in HubSpot. My clients don't play in HubSpot, and I don't spend operational time in HubSpot, right? Like, so I don't have enough knowledge. I know the stories of HubSpot's really easy. It's simple to implement. It's, UI supposedly a little bit better. But look, I'm a solopreneur and I use Salesforce. Scott uses Excel, maybe Google Sheets. I don't know. But that's legit. Like, that's not it's funny, but Scott doesn't need to see that value because Scott also has a better memory than I do. Legitimately. So for me, I use Salesforce in a very small way. I don't use it for all the things I probably could use it for. But for me, I just use it as a data repository. So I think it has a lot to do with what is the level of this small organization and what is their desire. I want a data warehouse, right? And I want a pipeline and I want to see my tasks being managed and all that stuff. Sure. Would I like Einstein to tell me, oh, you need to go call this person, or here's a topic you should bring? Sure, I would. Yeah, that would be great. But I'm not going to go spend the time on it, because my pipeline's not that, I have 4 to 5 clients at any one time, 15 to 20 deals at any one time in my pipeline, right? I don't need a whole bunch more. And so in my head, the time it would take to build that stuff out, implement it, pay someone to come in and do it, is it really going to give me that much of a lift? If I were going to scale myself, if I were going to be like, okay, I'm going to go hire 2 more trainers and I'm going to have them start to do stuff, and then I'm going to have someone help a little bit more effectively on the marketing than what I currently do. Well, then I would look at Salesforce and I'd probably then reconsider. And I would probably ask one of those 3 or 4 people to say, who wants to own HubSpot? Because I don't. If you all love HubSpot, I'll pay to move it, but I'm not doing it, right? Because I know my bandwidth and I know what my patience is like. I literally got 45 minutes into a Comcast conversation yesterday to get nowhere with 3 different people. And you can imagine what my patience is for setting up fucking HubSpot or any CRM. That's not a slight on HubSpot. So that's my answer to the question. That's a very personal answer, though. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Like why Microsoft Excel is the AI-based CRM of the future.
I can't answer any of these questions about these big decisions that these big companies make.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest with you.
But let me ask you, Scott, I have a question for you around this, Scott. So you have, I know you've had like JM and some other people work with you in the past. at what point would you have added, how many more people would you have added to go, okay, fine, I need to do something because it's going to help the team better?
Well, I
Two
never
more
really
people.
I never really looked at it as like a people problem, you know. I never really thought, well, if I add 2 more people, then I need to go get this tool. I shouldn't get this tool until I have 10 more people.
So it's a
never really,
process issue for you. It would be like, okay, now that it's this complex, I might need something to help with the process
to
side.
me, it is, when is the pain of dealing with this painful enough that I need to do something about it and try to fix it?
What do you
Right?
think about Naval Ravikan's axiom for decision making? So if you have a hard decision to make, not just CRM, but in go-to-market, and there's an easy thing now and the hard thing now, do the hard thing now because it's going to be easier later.
Well, I sort of
do the hard stuff, to pick up the phone and start dialing versus sending the follow-up email, to fire the top performing rep now versus in 3 months when things might change, to like really tell non-ICP clients to stop working with you so you can focus on building the product roadmap. Because there's tons of pressure in 2024.
I'm trying to think of how to answer this.
It's a good question.
I have been blessed with not having the gene that is unafraid of doing that. I never really I don't know, because when I hold on, I'm trying to answer your first question. You asked like 5 in a row. Let me try to come up with an answer. When I would build sales teams, I would show up as almost always the first sales hire, the VP of sales, but I had to act as like an individual contributor at first, figure out how to sell it, hire a couple people, prove I could ramp them, and then I'd blow it up and scale the whole thing. As soon as humanly possible, I started building for scale. As soon as humanly possible, right? The last time I was a VP of sales, my very first hire was a head of RevOps.
Gotcha.
Because I was already thinking, I can skip all this shit now and have problems later on, or I can do all this meticulous, boring work now so I have no problems down the road. I always erred towards doing the more difficult thing first with a bigger scale in mind. Always.
Which I absolutely love. And the question that you mentioned, okay, you're born with this gene to do like hard now, easy later as a modus operandi. How do you get sales reps to do the hard stuff? Like it's 8 a.m. and I have an option to either like work on a slide deck, B, send a follow-up email, C, call somebody who I know like ask me for a discount and I need to negotiate because I'm not allowed to do any. How do you get 90% of go-to-market people to do the hard stuff that are comfortable being comfortable?
Well, number one, you empower them to do it. Number two, you articulate why it's important to do so that they don't feel like it's just an order. They understand why. They understand why it benefits them, right? And then you align incentives around it. You know, Richard will tell you in the very beginning when I show up at companies, I actually don't comp my reps on closed revenue. I comp them on building pipeline, opening opportunities, leading indicators to revenue. So you empower them, you educate them, and you align incentives around it. And somewhere along the way, we get away from that. And then we wonder why reps won't do the hard thing. It's so much less complicated.
People
try to make it out to be.
Get incentives right, get behavior right. Results will follow behavior.
That's it. Empower them, help them learn how to do it, get better at it, right? Educate them around it, align the incentives. Yeah.
So here's one I always found tough to solve on incentivizing it besides the core business, which is testimonials and referrals. And I mean, it often rolls back to the CEO, which is fine. But marketing says I don't have customer contact. I never talk to people. I send campaigns and analyze data. Sales says like it's not my job to capture the testimonial. I book the revenue and like I want to sell them more. Customer success says like I'm too nice to ask because I'm here to make them successful. So you end up with this really case studies might be the most crucial sales enablement asset out there, right? Because it's social proof, it's a quantified transformation, it makes it easy to understand and evaluate, it's basically reference calls at scale. So who should do capture testimonials and referrals as a bonus?
Who is supposed to do that?
Marketing, sales, customer success, CEO.
Okay. So unfortunately, this will be the last question, Manuel, but we're happy to come on your podcast and you can ask us all these questions. Only because I've got a hard stop. But in my opinion, sales can help and customer success can capture the use case, right? Because every testimonial referral is around a use case, and that's the first problem. However, it's then up to product marketing to dive in and have a conversation with that customer, right? It's one thing and there's a timing issue to this, in my opinion. Yes, you could do it immediately after someone signs, but that better be the right client, because you're asking that client to give up some of their extra time to just talk about you when you just sold them. Mm-hmm. So at some point after onboarding, at some point after they're, engaged and they're using the tool or service, somewhere maybe in 60 or 90 days, then I think product marketing could reach out, and then you create a program, reach out to that person and say, hey, I'm with the product team. We're trying to, we're working on understanding how people are using it. You're a new user versus our veteran users. Can we spend a few minutes understanding what made you buy the product? What did you like? Right. How is it going now that you've been on the product for a certain while? Right? What do you still wish it could do? What's a quote you would like? So to me, it's that. And it's product marketing, because that is what product marketing is. It is about the use cases that the tool is being used for. I don't have a problem with a salesperson going to do it, but I don't want to send my entire sales team to go talk to 3 of their clients and see if we can get them to write a case study. Like, it's not my job as a salesperson to sell them on doing a case study for us. And part of the problem is the approach with which people ask salespeople to do that. That's part of the problem. So anyway, so that's my answer to that question of how I would do that. Product marketing should own that. Right? I talk about it all the time. Like, you don't know your use cases? Well, what the fuck is product marketing doing all day long? Like, aren't they marketing the product around the use cases? Why do we not know that? Why is that siloed? So that's my opinion. So, but Scott, any different opinion, or are we good? Not that I need to cut you off, but
I got nothing to add to that. That's a good answer.
All right, Manuel, this has been awesome. How can people get a hold of you?
I like easiest way, probably Manuel Hartmann on Sales Playbook on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. Still replying to every message. No 100K plus followers.
Yes.
And he'll send you a voicemail.
You're doing it the right way. You're doing it the right way.
Go to thesalesplaybook.com if you get any questions, or like there's tons of free resources and so on as well. Tons of case studies, just learning from other entrepreneurs how they basically tackle the things that we discuss here.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Manuel. We appreciate it. And thank you to everybody listening to the Surf and Sales podcast. We'll see you again soon. And don't forget, November, Surf and Sales is happening, surfandsales.com.